Hey everyone. I know a lot of you listening are really hoping for positive change in Nigeria. You want to see an end to the corruption and bad governance that's been holding the country back for so long. And you're not alone. I think everyone wants to see Nigeria reach its full potential and for the people to benefit from that. So in this deep dive, we're going to be looking at a real-world example that might give us some insight into how that can actually happen. We're going to be comparing Algeria and Nigeria, two countries that are actually quite similar in a lot of ways. Both have tons of oil and gas resources, but they've taken very different paths. Algeria has been seeing amazing growth and is becoming more and more economically independent, while Nigeria is still really struggling. So we want to understand why that is. What can Nigeria learn from Algeria's journey? We're going to talk about billion-dollar pipelines, global energy shifts, and a real quest for national transformation. It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most interesting things is how the Russia-Ukraine conflict totally changed the global energy scene. And Nigeria was really smart about taking advantage of that.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy to think that in just 2 years, Algeria became the top supplier of pipeline gas to the EU. That's incredible. But how did they do that?
Well, it's a sign that they've been planning strategically and then putting those plans into action really well. They didn't just end up in this position by chance, they went after it. They invested a lot in gas infrastructure, especially pipelines like the Transmed and Medgas,
Right.
which connect straight to Europe. These pipelines have huge capacity. Like Transmed can move 32 billion cubic meters of gas every year, and Medgas another 10 billion. That's a ton of gas going into the EU. It
Yeah.
really makes Algeria an essential energy partner.
Okay, so they build pipelines,
Yeah.
which is a great start. But just having infrastructure doesn't explain their incredible economic success, does it? There's got to be more to it.
Right. The key factor here, and this is where it gets really interesting, is good governance. Algeria's state-owned oil company, Sonatrach, is a great example of how to run things efficiently and transparently. It's the total opposite of Nigeria's NNPC, which has been caught up in all sorts of corruption scandals. When you have a system that's accountable and not full of corruption, it builds trust with investors, it attracts foreign capital, and ultimately it fuels economic growth. And you can really see the results in Algeria.
Oh, absolutely. The results are undeniable. Algeria's economy is booming. Their GDP growth was over 4% in 2023, hitting an impressive $260 billion. And they're aiming even higher, shooting for $400 billion by 2026-2027. Plus, their foreign currency reserves have grown to a healthy $70 billion.
Exactly. All that financial strength has allowed them to basically say they don't need international loans anymore. President Tebboune pretty much said, we're standing on our own 2 feet now. Adel, that statement says a lot about their economic sovereignty. They've reached a point where they don't have to rely on borrowing from other countries, so now they're free to make their own decisions without being tied to international creditors.
So they've got the pipelines, the financial stability, the economic independence. Where does that put them on the global energy stage?
Well, they're not just playing in the big leagues. They're leading the pack. Algeria has become the #1 exporter of LNG in Africa, overtaking Nigeria, which held that spot for over a decade. They've even surpassed Russia as the second biggest supplier of pipeline gas to the EU, right behind Norway. It's not just about being successful economically, it's about being a major force in global energy security and having real influence on the world stage.
This is where the comparison gets really interesting, and honestly, a little bit depressing. While Algeria is riding high, Nigeria seems to be stuck at the starting line. It's hard to believe that a country with so much gas only has one working gas export pipeline, the West African Gas Pipeline.
Yeah, and even that pipeline mostly serves the West African region. Two really important projects, the Nigeria-Algeria Trans-Saharan Pipeline and the super ambitious Nigeria-Morocco Gas Pipeline, which was supposed to be the longest underwater pipeline in the world, have both hit major roadblocks, which means Nigeria can't really take full advantage of its resources.
So what's holding Nigeria back? Why can't they follow in Algeria's footsteps? Why is it that with so much potential, Nigeria is still struggling?
The reasons are complicated, but unfortunately, they're pretty familiar. Rampant corruption has driven up the costs of development, making projects way too expensive and scaring off foreign investors who are looking for stability and transparency. Then you've got insecurity and constantly changing policies, which create a very unpredictable business environment. It makes long-term planning and investment incredibly risky. And because of all this, Nigeria has had to rely heavily on loans, which has weakened the naira and led to sky-high inflation.
It's just heartbreaking to see Nigeria, a country with so much potential, stuck with the label of poverty capital of the world.
Mm.
It's a stark reminder of the human cost of corruption and bad governance.
It really is. But even with all that struggle, Algeria is like a beacon of hope. It's a real-world example of what can happen when a country embraces good governance, strategic investments, and a genuine commitment to national prosperity. Their journey shows that with the right leadership. Leadership focused on the well-being of its people. A nation can overcome incredible challenges and achieve truly remarkable success.
I completely agree. It's an inspiring example. But it also raises a really important question. How can Nigeria get there? What can people do to create a system of government that truly works for them? Because this isn't just about abstract numbers and economic indicators. This is about the lives of millions of Nigerians who deserve the opportunity to prosper. And that's something we're going to explore further in our next part. So stay tuned. And we'll be right back after a quick break.
Yeah, it really highlights the contrast. And it ties back to what you were saying about what the listeners want to see for Nigeria. Algeria shows us it's possible, even with similar resources and challenges. Economic transformation and a better future are achievable.
Absolutely. It's inspiring for sure. But it also makes you wonder, how can Nigeria actually get there? What can Nigerians do to demand and build a system that truly serves the people? Because this isn't just about some economic numbers, it's about real people. It's about the lives of millions of Nigerians. They deserve a chance to thrive.
It starts with realizing the power of working together. Nigerians need to hold their leaders accountable. They have to demand transparency and a real commitment to the country's well-being. This means actively taking part in the political process, pushing for policies that prioritize education, healthcare, and sustainable economic development. It's about changing the focus. It can't just be about personal gain. It has to be about national progress, moving away from just taking resources and towards investing in the future.
I like that. Moving away from just taking and towards investing. It's about demanding real results instead of empty promises. Algeria's success didn't just happen by chance. It was the result of vision, planning, and a relentless focus on making things happen. They didn't just sit on their resources, they actively developed them.
Exactly. Think about Sinatrak again. They're always out there exploring, finding new oil and gas fields, expanding their capacity and their reach. They're proactive, not reactive, always thinking about how to maximize their potential, and they haven't stopped there either.
All right. President Tinubu has talked a lot about making their economy more diverse. So they're not just dependent on oil and gas. It's like they're already thinking several steps ahead, getting ready for a future where those resources might not be as important as they are today.
Exactly. They get it. To have a truly resilient economy, you got to have different ways to generate income. And it's working for them. Their exports that aren't oil and gas have gone up to $7 billion, which is a huge jump from the $1.5 billion they used to have. This shows that they're not content with just riding the oil wave. They're building an economy that's more diverse and sustainable.
And it all comes back to what we've been saying. Good governance is the foundation. Without it, you get a situation like Nigeria, where so much potential is wasted. Because of mismanagement and corruption, it's like having this powerful engine, but no steering wheel. You've got all that power, but no control over where it goes.
I like that analogy. It really shows how urgent this is. Nigeria can't keep going like this, wasting opportunities and potential. The human cost is too high. Millions of Nigerians are being denied even the basic necessities of life.
It's a sobering thought. So where do we go from here? What are the key takeaways for our listeners, especially those who are passionate about seeing Nigeria change for the better? What can they do to make a difference?
I think the most important thing to remember is that change is possible. Algeria's transformation didn't happen by accident. It happened because they made deliberate choices, they took consistent action, and they had leaders who put the country's interests ahead of their own. Nigerians can learn from that example. They can demand accountability from their leaders and actively work to create a brighter future for their country.
It's about changing the narrative, shifting the focus from despair to possibility. We hear all the time about Nigeria's problems, the corruption, the poverty. But Algeria shows us that the different path is possible. Good governance isn't some unattainable dream. It's the key to unlocking a nation's true potential. It's how you create a society where everyone has a real chance to succeed.
I couldn't agree more. And it's not just about copying what Algeria did. It's about understanding the principles behind their success: transparency, accountability, strategic planning, a focus on long-term sustainability, and then applying those principles to Nigeria's own unique situation. It's about building institutions that are strong and efficient and that genuinely serve the people.
Exactly. It's about creating a sense of national unity and shared purpose, where every citizen feels like they have a stake in Nigeria's success. But how do we actually put these ideas into action? If Algeria can achieve economic independence and a better future for its people, despite facing similar challenges, what concrete steps can Nigerians take to make sure they get better governance in their own country?
Well, it starts with personal responsibility. Every single citizen has to become an agent of change. They need to demand better from their leaders, hold them accountable for their actions, and refuse to tolerate corruption or complacency. It's about recognizing that the power to change Nigeria lies within each and every one of its citizens.
It's about going beyond just being apathetic. It's about being an active citizen, participating in elections, engaging in meaningful dialogue, supporting initiatives that promote good governance and sustainable development, and speaking out against injustice and corruption.
Absolutely. And it's about creating a culture of transparency and accountability. This requires everyone to work together. Citizens, civil society organizations, the media. It means demanding access to information, scrutinizing what the government is doing, and holding leaders responsible for their decisions. We need a system where corruption isn't just condemned, but actively prevented and punished.
It's a long road, there's no doubt about that. But Algeria's journey shows us that it's a journey worth taking. The rewards are enormous. Economic prosperity, social progress, a future where Nigeria takes its rightful place as a global leader. Not just in terms of resources, but in terms of human development and well-being.
Imagine a Nigeria where the oil wealth is used to build schools and hospitals and infrastructure, to empower people and create a brighter future for generations to come. Imagine a Nigeria that's no longer defined by corruption and poverty, but by innovation, progress, and opportunity. That's the potential that Nigeria has, and it's a potential worth fighting for.
I love that. It's a powerful vision, and it underscores what's truly at stake here. But it's important to remember that change doesn't just happen overnight. It takes continuous effort, an unwavering commitment, and a collective belief that a better Nigeria is actually possible. What really stands out to you from all this? What gives you hope? Or maybe sparks an idea about what you can do personally to be a part of this transformation?
You know, it's interesting. We've been talking about pipelines and exports and GDP, but really it always comes back to the people. Good governance means putting people first, investing in their well-being, empowering them to reach their full potential. It's about creating a society where everyone, every single Nigerian, has a fair chance to succeed, no matter their background or who they know.
That's so true. It's about recognizing that every citizen has value and dignity, and making sure the systems we have support their dreams. Instead of holding them back, it's about creating an environment where hard work and talent are rewarded, not where corruption and favoritism win out.
Exactly. It's about changing the whole way we think, moving away from just taking what we can get, towards stewardship and shared prosperity. Understanding that a nation's real wealth isn't just about resources. It's about the people, their talent, creativity, and resilience.
And that's where the power really lies. The power to change Nigeria doesn't belong to any one person or institution. It belongs to the people. It's about demanding better, holding leaders accountable, and refusing to accept things the way they are.
It's about understanding that change starts from the ground up. It's about being involved in your community, pushing for better schools and healthcare and opportunities for young people. It's about supporting organizations that are fighting for transparency and accountability.
It's about being informed and engaged, never losing sight of that vision, the vision of a Nigeria where everyone can thrive.
Yep. Absolutely. Algeria's story shows us that it's possible, but it takes constant effort and unwavering commitment, and a shared belief in the power of change.
And that's what I hope you take away from this deep dive. A sense of hope, a renewed determination, and a clear understanding that the future of Nigeria isn't set in stone. It's a future that we, the people, have the power to create. Knowledge is power, and the power to build a better Nigeria is in your hands. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep working toward a brighter future.